Hello, friends, and welcome. I'm Pure Elise.
I'm Joe, and this is the Esoterics Podcast.
What's going on today, Joe?
Oh gosh, there's not a ton going on. I am in honor of Halloween, rewatching True Blood. And so I'm on like season 3, episode 11. And I had forgotten how fun it was. Although I started watching it back when it was live, and then I sort of fell away from it. I don't know why I fell away from it because it is one of the most fun shows ever. Have you ever watched it?
No, I haven't. Is it gory?
Very,
Okay.
but not in a, oh my God, I'm so grossed out way. It's just very graphic.
Okay.
Are you not a fan of gore?
I don't really do gore. I mean, I will here and there. We watched this series with my kids. I forgot what it was called, but it kind of reminded me of Stranger Things. It had that vibe to it.
Yeah.
And it was like set in 3 generations, and that one was gory, but I didn't mind it. I can't remember what it was called.
What is it about gore? Because I am a gore freak. The more the better. I love it.
Oh, it's called Fear Street.
Fear Street. Okay, I'll have to write it down.
It's useless to me.
How dare you?
I don't know, sometimes I'm just like, was that necessary?
I love your rationalization. It's really not necessary.
Yeah, and yeah, Fear Street was pretty gory at times, but I got through it. It wasn't bad. I guess sometimes gore can be so cheesy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is really well done.
Okay.
I have a huge morbid curiosity. So, and it started way back in my early 20s when I saw this film called Faces of Death. Okay.
Oh God,
and it was a crime scene cleanup,
Yes.
right? Or yes. And I was, at first I was like, okay, this is gross, but it fascinated me because I couldn't believe how, the perfect, beautiful human body can go from being, whole and alive and talking and laughing and to a puddle of just guts. Based on, that fascinated me. I have this horrible morbid streak, which is why probably morbid is my favorite true crime podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to look at real morbid stuff when I was like a teenager. I remember my cousins were introduced me to that one website. What was it called? Rotten.com.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was bad. It was bad. I don't even know if it's still up anymore. I don't know.
What?
I don't know what.
It better.
I have no idea. But it was like, they had a whole section called Faces of Death, and
Yeah.
they had that, and they also had the celebrity morgue where it was just like pictures of
Yeah,
dead
I've
celebrities.
seen that.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Mhm.
it was dark. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say like I can look at it. Okay, I guess here's my other problem with looking at it like that. I feel like I get desensitized.
Yeah,
Because you have
for
to
sure.
kind of disassociate with it because you're gonna be like, eh. So I don't like that. Like I don't like that feeling.
It is interesting because as an empath or as a medium, when I'm looking at those pictures, it's essences of that person will come through. So I'll see flashes of them like, happy and whole.
Oh.
And then of course, but I'm staring at their head shot off with a gunshot, right?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know what it is. It's this very morbid curiosity that I've had ever since I was, like I said, in my young 20s, and so even like more embalmers, morticians, that sort of thing. It just fascinates the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But like I can't go to funerals,
Oh, yeah.
viewings and stuff like that because it's so low vibe. People are unhappy and crying and all that stuff. So,
Have you seen the movie Sunshine Cleaning?
I want to say yes, but because it's 2 girls, right?
It's Amy Adams and Emily Blunt, and they're sisters, and they end up with a business cleaning up crime scenes or cleaning up like dead.
Yes, I've heard of it. Yes.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good, actually. It's funny, and it's so it's like the wholesome to kind of take on what we're talking about. If
Um, there is I belong to a Facebook group, or just I follow a page. Oh, it's called anyways, it's a crime scene cleanup. Now,
oh,
they don't show the actual pictures of the bodies. They're very
sure,
respectful.
because most of the time the bodies aren't there when they're going to clean up. I think. Yeah.
Right, right. But they do show the aftermath
Mm-hmm.
of them. But they're very respectful about what they show. They really show you how they do it. Like they'll have to take up floorboards if the bodily fluids seep down into them, and
Mm,
they'll show you the before and the after. So it's really really fascinating
yeah.
stuff. But yeah, as an empath and a psychic, and having any sort of intuitive abilities, you can get it can be you can get oversensitized, or like you said,
Yeah.
desensitized to it.
Would you buy a house or would you live somewhere where you knew someone like had died?
I don't know. Okay, here's the thing. Like my uncle died in his house, and
Hmm.
for a half a second I was like, okay, well, I kind of want this house,
Hmm.
but then I was like, I don't he had so much, he basically drank himself to death in that house, and I don't know, there's something
Oh,
about it. So,
yeah.
if I didn't know it, yeah, I mean, I've slept in a bed that somebody died in before. Of course it wasn't the mattress, but it was the bed.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I guess I'd prefer not to, but
Right.
if it happens, it happens. What about you?
Oh, so I love old houses, and so I think about this
Yes.
too often. Especially like right now, I'm like starting to look for a house and just kind of like
Yes.
low gently looking because this market's crazy. But I think it would depend on how they died, and as long as it wasn't
Right.
like a violent crime, I would probably
Right.
be okay. Because I think most houses, especially older houses, odds are somebody died in that house. Like
Right. Exactly.
it's
Especially 18,
yeah, if it's a
late
100-year-old
1800s.
house, I mean, your
Yeah.
odds are pretty high. So I'm not gonna be like, no,
Mm-mm.
no one could have ever done. No, of course, it's like it happens all the time. But as long as it wasn't some crazy, violent crime or something
Hmm.
suspicious or maybe like a child dying, like those are
I
things that I'd be like,
know.
no, I can't do that because I would
Hmm.
be more freaked out of like, what if their soul pops up, like and them.
Right, because they are scared and they did not go into the light. So you have to tell them. Okay, the cool thing is that you could easily clear it,
Sure,
right?
yes.
You could get the fuck out, right? Get your mom in there. All the spirits get the fuck out. But so you and I have the skills to clear that stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
still it'd be like, well, why do no, I just want a new build. Can I just get a new build? That's what I want, is a new
No,
build.
you know what? If you're gonna give me a solid discount, I will clear out the ghosts for you.
I'll do it. I'll do anything for a discount.
I'll just I just need this at a really, really good price. I need that's the ghost price. I need the ghost price mortgage on this.
Right. Okay, but I'm with you. I love old houses, like 1920s Cape Cods with all that
Oh,
beautiful original woodwork and built-ins
yes.
and just gleaming, exposed beams.
Mhm.
That's my favorite style house, is the Cape Cod.
Yeah, I like the craftsman styles with the
Yes, that too.
porch and the wood, the woodwork, the
Yes.
wainscoting, and just
Yes.
yeah, all the woodworking detail that goes into a genuine craftsman style home. I love those.
Me too. Can we just build two old, brand new builds, but old style craftsman houses right next
You
to each
you
other?
can. I also love mid-century. Mid-centuries. That's what I'm in the market for right
Is
now.
that
Yeah,
your
because
your thing?
I love the big windows and the natural light.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
love that. So, we'll
Mhm.
see.
Yes. All right. Well, good luck. I'm sending you good luck. Hopefully, your market isn't crazy. I know the market here in Portland is really
It's
bad.
crazy
So,
everywhere. It's so bad.
um,
Yeah, it is. So,
it's a West Coast thing. You moving to Michigan, you can get a nice house for
I
less
I
than
know,
two
but then
hundred
I have
thousand
to live with
dollars.
snow and I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's ugh, snow.
But I'll go to
It's
Michigan. It looks pretty.
it's so beautiful, but yeah, I'm not ready to go back yet. So, if ever,
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so what announcements do we have? Let's see. Oh, we have one more spot available for Journey the Wild. That this is our soul medicine retreat, which takes place November 5th through November 7th. in Idlewild, California. We've had a few inquiries, but if you're serious, it's seriously just one spot. So you just got to
Yeah.
grab it.
I know in the group I announced that we had sold out, but it was a slight miscommunication on my end. So we do have one more spot.
Yep. So, with this, you get to join Joe and I for a weekend of connecting to our soul and aligning with our higher self through breath work, meditation, Reiki, Akashic journeys, sound baths, crystal jewelry making, and a lot more, while
Mm.
exploring the plant medicines of Mesoamerica. With this, all snacks, food, and beverages provided will support the weekend's activity. So everything's vegetarian or vegan. It's healthy, delicious, and satisfying. And we will be in a gorgeous home, surrounded by nature. Support that so help support peace, relaxation, and deep inner exploration. So if you'd like to
Yes.
join us, visit the Esoterics Podcast website. That's esotericspodcast.com. And our enrollment includes accommodations, meals, and snacks, assorted beverages, just does not include travel expenses.
If I weren't going, I would be like, sign me up. I want to do this. I know a lot of people have expressed interest. They're like, well, I can't because of this or that.
Yeah.
So,
I was
um,
I was talking to my husband about it because he was asking me, he's like, "So do you guys have an agenda what you're gonna do?" And so I was kind of running it through and he's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "So you're not just it's not just like show up and, drink something and
wing
then
it.
that's it." Like, no, like you guys are offering. I'm like, "Yeah, this is the retreat that I would want to go to. So this
Right.
is what we've
Exactly.
created." Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so, all right, cool. So tell him to spread the word amongst his friends, right? Let him start networking. That would
Exactly.
be great.
Yes.
Put it back on him. Let's see. I will be opening up a few spots for custom, intuitively designed jewelry before Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that announcement by following Joe Figueres Studio on Instagram. I will announce it in the Facebook group, but I'm really going to focus on Instagram with this one because I don't open up a lot of space for that, just because it's just a lot. But basically, what I do to design your custom ring or pendant is I open your Akashic record and then I'll use your numerology and astrology to get insights into the stone that's going to best work with your personal energy. Whatever your intentions are, your goals, all of that stuff, I'll use my intuitive abilities to sort of guide myself to that stone. I'm also going to look at like past lives and karma that you might have to work through. So the stone will also help facilitate, working through that process. Custom designs are the same price as an Akashic reading, and they come with a personal numerology report that includes all of the metaphysical properties of the crystal gemstone that I use in the design. So, like I said, keep an eye out for that. I have a bunch of orders I have to complete before I can start taking new customs, but I hope to be ready by November 1st.
Awesome. That is so cool.
It's something that I love, love, love to do, but it's a lot, you know.
Mm,
I mean, basically an akashic reading and then creating a stone. So, but whatever, I love it, so I'm going to start doing it again.
that's very cool. I love that. That's a great service.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
All right. What are we talking about today, Joe?
Today, we are going to explore the peculiar history of the Ouija board. And it is, we're going to be kind of a little bit all over the place today, but it's all going to come together at the end.
Okay.
So, yeah, it'll be fun.
All right. I'm ready.
Uh, okay. So, the big question surrounding the Ouija board, is it real or is it a simple board game invented for entertainment? All right. So for many, it's an object of, I don't know, fear and curiosity, a little bit of
Yeah.
both, right?
Yeah.
For others, it's a tool to communicate with the spirit realm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is it, right? So now, full disclosure, I don't fuck with them. and because I don't need to, okay? I can communicate with spirit using my clair abilities. I don't need a spirit board. But just so you know, all of you listening absolutely 100% can develop your abilities to the same degree. Okay. There's nothing special about what I can do. I've just developed my abilities. So before you start using one, know that your body is the ultimate Ouija board.
Oh.
Um, I do use a pendulum for energy work to test the strength of a chakra, and I'll occasionally use it for simple yes and no divination. I just received I was gifted a beautiful new pendant from Fiora, and so I'm excited to start playing with it a little bit. But I use a pendulum mostly to show people how the mind can influence the pendulum, or how energy can influence a divination tool, and how they can be generally inaccurate or easily manipulated, unless you're, sort of clear of mind and all that stuff.
Mm,
But that's a whole other topic.
mhm.
So, anyway, that's my full disclosure.
Okay.
Um, but I am intrigued by the Ouija, and I think that when it's used by the right person with the right intention, it really can be a really cool tool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever used a Ouija?
No, I have a Central American mother who would kill me if I.
Okay, that's true. And right there, that's we don't know. What she says goes.
Like, culturally, like, we're like, everyone's afraid of these things, like, for and, like, in my family, like, yeah. So, my sister, um, has a Ouija board blanket. It's the blanket that has a Ouija board printed on it or whatever, and her boyfriend's mom gives her a heart, like, she won't let her have it in the house. Like, "You can't have that devil stuff." I'm like, "What? It's not like you use it like a Ouija board, it's just a blanket." But
It's the devil's telephone. Get it out of here.
yeah. So, no.
All right. Okay. Well, see, good. So both of us are like hard no, but we still want to talk about
Sure,
it.
yep, I do.
All right. So the Ouija board is a form of communication that is actually similar to automatic writing, and that has been in use for centuries. Instances of spirit boards go back as far as 1100 AD, and automatic writing appears in the ancient histories and cultures of like China, India, Greece, Rome. So it goes back basically using some sort of device
Mhm.
to receive messages, and so that's basically what the Ouija is. Now, the modern day Ouija is simply a divination tool used to communicate with spiritual energies. Okay, it's similar to other tools that do the same thing, like pendulums, divining rods, and the tarot and the oracle.
Okay.
There really is no difference. And we'll talk about how the Ouija started out as sort of this fun game and then devolved into, a, an instrument of Satan.
Okay.
All right. So to use a Ouija board, first we're going to talk about how to use it. Okay.
Okay.
To use it, two or more people sit on either side of the board and then lightly place their fingertips on the planchette. Um, they then take turns asking questions, and the idea is that spirit will move the planchette to spell out answers. It's like spirit texting, if you will.
Mhm.
And so, it seems innocent enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, mediums who use the Ouija say it just all depends.
Okay.
Now, as any sort of, I guess, practice goes, intention is everything. So while the Ouija is simply a tool, how it's used is governed by the intentions of the people using it.
Okay.
Same as tarot, same as,
Sure.
any others. So this is why you should never use one with people that you don't know,
Oh,
or with people whose intentions aren't in alignment with yours. So while your intentions may be pure, the intentions of others that you're using it with might not be.
right. Okay.
I, I would never, ever, ever use it with somebody that I didn't know.
Yeah. Sounds like you're opening yourself up to some other possibilities with that.
To some bullshit is what you're opening yourself up to is bullshit. All right. So the thing is the board can open a channel to all different types of energy. Um, Human spirits, right? Ones that have crossed over, um, loved ones, who have passed, spirit guides, guardians, angels, the ascended masters, Ganesha, Yeshua, Kuan Yin.
Yeah,
Did I say that right? Kuan Yin, or yeah, I think
I
so.
think so.
But also earthbound spirits who, we talked about this last
Yeah,
week, enjoy screwing with people for whatever malevolent reasons because they're bored dicks,
sure.
right? So those are the ones that you have to really sort of guard yourself against. And so if the intention for you, if you and I were to use one, is to connect to our spirit guides, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
But if secretly I really wanted to connect with the old dude, uh, I don't know, some spirit, then it might jack it up.
Some dead serial killer.
R- and I'm not saying that I wouldn't. Especially during
Oh,
Spooktober.
good. Then you end up with a
But
Chucky
no,
doll.
I know, really, I really wouldn't, but you know. Okay, so there are some basic rules for working with a Ouija board. And if there are any listeners who have worked with a Ouija board and have cool stories to tell, please, please, please email us at esotericspodcast@gmail.com and tell us about them so we can share
Yeah,
those
I would
stories
love
with
to hear that.
others. We would love them. Yes. All right, so basic Ouija rules. First off, you have to have a healthy respect for the board and never use it in disrespectful ways. Don't disrespect spirit, don't disrespect the board, just have a healthy respect for it. The same goes for tarot and oracle cards, crystals, divining rods, any divination tool. Okay.
Mm.
Honor the board like you would any other tool. I wrap my cards in a scarf and I'm very respectful of them. I thank them, all of that stuff. Be mindful of where you use a Ouija board. This is really important because the energy that comes through can linger well after the board is put away. It's the same with connecting to spirit. As a medium, you sort of want to close out the session. Any reading, I'm like, all right, now all the spirits that came through, thank you. But now get out, go home.
Mm.
You don't have to go, but you can't stay here.
Yep.
Before you begin using the board, you're going to want to call in your angels, your guides, any loved ones. You're going to ask them to fill the space with their light and protective energy. Make sure that you are very clear about allowing in only those energies of the most divine vibrational frequency. Fiora, wouldn't you also recommend calling in the four elements?
I would. I mean, why not? It doesn't hurt. If
No,
anything, if
right.
that way you're creating a safe room, safe space around it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I agree. I mean, I don't know how some people can just sit down and, put their hands on the planchette with like nothing.
Yeah.
This is a divination tool again. All right. The other thing is don't believe everything a Ouija communicates to you, especially if it relays scary or bad news.
Mm.
Okay, it's the same with with a medium.
Hmm.
If you're working with a medium and she says you're going to die,
Yeah, they're not
right?
supposed to
Like,
tell you shit like that. Yeah.
well, and my spirit guides have never, ever, ever, anybody that's come through in any of my mediumship work, nothing like that has ever come through.
Yeah.
What has happened is I won't get anything. Now,
Hmm.
that's never happened to me, but one of the other mediums that I worked with, she said she had a client and she couldn't get anything. It was like anytime she tried to connect, it was just this blackness or it was just like nothing,
Hmm.
in your mind's eye. And she said, she was really sorry. She gave the lady her money back, and she said, "I just must be having a bad day." And then the lady died the next week. But she didn't know that the lady was going to die. The spirits aren't.
They're not gonna tell you what you're not supposed to know or what you shouldn't know or
No.
fear-based stuff. Like I had a
Yep.
friend who she said that she had a reading with someone and she told her like don't go out on this day. It's like, no, don't. That's fear. Like you
It's
can't live your life with that kind of fear. How is that even helpful?
no. And those or those mediums, I'm not saying that they're not, that they don't have legitimate abilities, but they certainly have zero idea on how to conduct a reading. And I wouldn't book with
Yeah.
them anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are ethics involved, and I'm not saying that you have to be like, super ethical and, just, but you have to be ethical.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you do.
Yeah, and the fear-based stuff is dangerous.
it's disempowering, and
Mhm.
it's used for manipulative purposes, usually typically to get more money out of people.
Yeah.
Tangent over. Let's see. Don't believe everything a Ouija communicates, especially if it's scary or bad news, because you may be communicating with earthbound
Mhm.
spirits with less than pure intent. Okay, and if this happens, you probably just haven't called in your spiritual allies or whatever. So you'll definitely want to close the board, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Never, ever, 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 ever ask the board when you or anyone else will die. Because if you're connecting with an asshole spirit, you're gonna get a date, and then of course then you're gonna fear it, right?
Yeah.
Eh, And that also empowers them because they feed off your fear.
Mhm.
Don't leave the planchette on the board unattended. Some people believe that this is like leaving the door to the other side open.
Okay.
I don't know, but I think it's a good practice.
Yeah.
Closing the board is a very critical step. When you're done with your session, you want to intentionally slide the planchette to goodbye and
Mhm.
then remove your hands from the board. That's how you close the board. And then I would assume you'd put it in the box and put the top on.
Yeah. Yeah, that last step of saying of moving it to goodbye is a step that a lot of people miss, and when they're the stories that come out of people who use the Ouija board and then they have, w bad things or weird things happen to them afterwards, it's because usually because they did not close it.
Yeah, so it's just like leaving an opportunity.
Mhm.
Like you said, an opportunity open. Once you slide the planchette to goodbye and you remove your hands, you want to sever your connection. So you just ask your angels, guides, loved ones to flood the space with the highest vibrational energy of love and light, filling up every corner. And then I always expand outside the room of the space. Again, I don't mess with Ouija's, but whenever I do any divination work with pendulums or tarot or oracle or whatever, whenever spirits come through, that's there's just this process that I follow.
Yeah.
You'll also want to make sure that you are in good health mentally and physically. If you suffer from depression, you definitely are not going to want to mess with a Ouija board because you're just going to attract, via the law of attraction, lower vibrational energy.
Mhm.
So just don't do it. Right? I don't understand. And then if you start to feel like you've connected with a negative energy, just end the session immediately by closing out the board. So
Okay.
those are some general, rules of using and working with a Ouija board. Okay.
Yeah, good rules to know.
I think so. I think so. Good common sense. Okay. Let's talk about the history of the Ouija because it is very peculiar. The title of this session is The Peculiar History of the Ouija Board,
Yeah.
or the title of this episode, I should say. Okay, so Charles Kennard, remember that name? He was a businessman and not really the most honest guy. In the mid 1880s, he moved to Maryland's Eastern Shore after developing a secret recipe for fertilizer. Very life changing for the farmers. All right, so he had a little bit of initial success with his fertilizer, but he actually lost his manufacturing plant due to drought, competition, because everybody was like, well, if he can, you know, make this amazing fertilizer, so can I.
Uh,
Um, and then debt, right? He couldn't pay his debt, so he lost the plant. But there was a Prussian immigrant named E.C. Reiki. And I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but it's Reiche. We're going to call him Reiki. And he kept an office next to Kennard's in the same facility. And he was a furniture guy who turned coffin maker. And then, since he was the coffin maker, people were always calling him. So he sort of turned into a semi undertaker. Very
mm,
cool, transition there. So when Kennard was lost his building, he had a plan, and he got together with Reiki.
okay.
Okay. But first, let's go back about 30 years earlier. Okay. So in 1850, there were a pair of women in upstate New York who you may know are named the Fox sisters, who claimed to be mediums. And they are sort of the founders of the spiritualist movement across the country that happened in the late 1800s. In the aftermath of the Civil War, in 1865, so many men had lost had been lost in like these bloody battles. So spiritualism, or I guess as we know it, mediumship,
Mhm.
had gained popularity with people that were really desperate for a connection to their departed loved ones.
Yeah.
All right. So in the 19th century, people had a very different relationship to death than we do today.
Yeah.
So remember how you were talking about like old houses and, 100 and 100-plus-year-old houses? Um, More than likely somebody had died in those houses.
Yep.
Well, death was sort of a part of their everyday experience.
Right. Mhm.
Right? In the 1800s, people only lived to be about 50 years old. So, these mothers would have, 12 children, and then six of them would die. So their parlors were also their funeral
Yeah.
rooms,
Yeah.
right there in their home. So it's a different relationship than we have.
Yeah, and that's why they were also known as the death parlor, and then that's why eventually we
Yes.
got the living room, is because it was trying to move away from the death parlor. That's why we call it living room.
Dude, how do you she knows this, right? This
Oh.
is this is the coolest little like what? That's
Uh,
amazing.
well, that's like an interior designer thing, but yeah.
Of course. Awesome. I love it that you know that.
It's also why we're moving away from calling master bedrooms the master bedrooms. They're called the owner's rooms now. It's because the master bedroom goes back to like plantation times where it's like the master, the owner of the. So that's where the master bedroom term comes from. So it's got some, not so fun history attached to that. So we're moving away from that. And now it's being called the owner's bedroom.
I support this transition.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
The owner's bedroom. I love it. Why can't it? I don't. Yeah, let's not digress. I'll take you down that path. I'll complain about something. I will. All right. So back to 1886, when Charles Kennard, the fertilizer king, shared a hallway with E.C. Reiki. Local newspapers began reporting about this talking board phenomena that was sweeping Ohio of all places. No, nothing good ever starts in Ohio. It's true. And all the Ohio people are
I
going to get
know.
all mad at me. Whatever. All right. So it's also about this time that Kennard and Reiki began to collaborating, because remember, Reiki was a woodworker,
Mhm.
and they made about a dozen of their own talking boards. Okay, but Kennard, he got greedy.
Mm.
So when Reiki was making these on the side, because he was still making coffins and being an undertaker, Kennard, he was like, I'm out of here. He moved to Baltimore in about 1890 and then started pitching what he says is his talking board invention to all these potential
Mm.
investors. So he cut out Reiki and he's like, sorry, sucker, I'm moving on.
Hmm.
So he got all these rejections, but he eventually connected with a local attorney named Elijah Bond, who, in a lot of the research that I did, Bond was the one who is actually credited with inventing the board, not Reiki,
Oh,
and not Kennard. But it's all a matter of putting all this together, and it's like, but
yes. Hmm.
not how that happened.
Sometimes it's
And
who put in the trademark or whatever is usually what it comes
And
down
that's
to.
exactly who it was. It was Bond. Bond put in the
That's
trademark.
why.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. See, I said it was peculiar. So after numerous rejections, local attorney Elijah Bond, he actually claimed that his sister-in-law was a medium, and so he took an interest. And then soon after, the Kennard Novelty Company, which incorporated the day before Halloween, interestingly enough,
Oh,
it was born, and they began manufacturing Ouija boards, much as they appear today.
okay.
Very similar.
Okay.
And so, when asked, by a reporter, if he believed the Ouija's mystical powers, Kennard replied, "I should say not. I'm no spiritualist. I'm a Presbyterian." I don't really, don't really know, why, but whatever. All right, now by the early 1890s, 2,000 Ouija boards were being sold a week, which is a lot in 1890. Holy crap. Initially, the board was marketed as a party game to encourage intimacy for romantic couples, which I thought was really, really interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, and early advertisements placed, or depicted the board resting on each of their knees as they sit across from each other with both of their hands on the planchette. Because remember back then, they were really like they really couldn't touch. They had to be, what's it called? What's it called when somebody watches over them?
Oh, chaperone, they had to be chaperoned?
Chaperoned.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah. I'll share a Saturday Evening Post image of a couple. It looks like a 1920s couple using a Ouija board, but it's more about the closeness of them, their connection,
Hmm,
all that stuff. So very interesting. So that's what it was originally marketed as. Originally, it was a very innocent, fun party game.
okay.
Now, the success of the spirit board sort of caused Kennard to cash out early. This dude was he was not a very good businessman. So he's like, I'm out of here, right? Right at the height of it.
Mhm.
So in steps William Fuld, Fuld. He was an original investor in the Kennard Novelty Company, and he actually gained control of the business when Kennard left. And then, of course, William Fuld goes on to make millions.
Oh my god, yeah. Mhm.
Mhm. But interestingly enough, he would tragically die at his factory when he fell off the roof. Dude, why are you up
Why
on
were
the
you
roof?
on the
But
roof?
whatever. I don't know. Something about a fence that gave way, or something he was putting up signage or something like that.
Oh.
All right. So on his deathbed, he made his children promise to never sell the Ouija out of the family. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so they're like, yeah, sure, dad, no problem. Kids lie, right? They did sell, of course. It wasn't until 40 years later, but they did sell. But who did they sell it to? Parker Brothers,
Mm,
who immediately moved the production to its base of operations in Salem, Massachusetts.
interesting.
And so, very interesting. So, sort of in that energy
Mhm.
of, spookiness and all of
Yeah.
that, Parker Brothers went on to sell 2 million Ouija boards in their first year of production.
Wow.
So yeah, this game has been a huge thing for, over 100 years.
Yeah. And how did Parker Brothers market it though? Because I imagine at that
Mm,
point it was different.
It was because of the spiritualist movement, which we'll get into. It was still very innocent, party game-ish, a way to connect with spirits. Because remember, their idea of death and spirits was much different than ours.
Mhm.
It was more about, oh, I want to communicate with loved ones. It wasn't like, evil.
Okay.
All right. So, yes, basically, an undertaker and an opportunist invented the only patented board game to ever outsell Monopoly, which is kind of cool. So, decades after it was invented, the Ouija board's popularity it reached its height. Okay,
Mhm.
in the 1920s, after the First World War, much like after the Civil War, spiritualism it sort of resurged. It had a resurgence because after having lost so many loved ones in the conflict and then facing that changing world, right, following probably one of the most destructive years in human history, people were again looking for guidance. So what do? They turned to this Ouija board, which is probably why Parker Brothers was able to sell so many.
Mm.
So how did it get its sort of evil, scary image that it has now? uh, Long before its first film appearances, the Ouija was already a sensation. But over time, the board earned sort of a more sinister reputation as Hollywood began utilizing it for darker purposes. So, of course, it's Hollywood's fault, right? Freaking Hollywood.
Of course. Ruin
So
things.
soon, the boards and many other practices of spiritualism suddenly started to terrify people. Almost overnight, the board became associated exclusively with evil spirits. In the 70s and 80s, there were books and movies sort of flooded the market that warned of the Ouija's, dangers,
Hmm.
and then played upon people's fear of connecting to or contacting evil spirits.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's how that sort of happened.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about a handful of horror movies that should have taught us not to fuck with a Ouija board. But we don't learn because I don't know. Why don't we ever learn? Okay. So the first one is The Exorcist in 1973. Little 12-year-old Regan decides she's going to play with a Ouija board and she meets a new imaginary friend she names Captain Howdy. Well, turns out that Captain Howdy is actually the devil himself, and he possesses Regan and makes her do, all sorts of unsanitary things like jamming a crucifix up her vagina.
Great. Mhm.
Right? Ow is also what I
Ouch.
say. So, and then a decade after The Exorcist was released, that sort of fear of spiritualism and the practices associated with contacting the dead,
Mm.
became associated with contacting the devil. So, at that
Uh,
point, the reputation of the Ouija was permanently intertwined with evil. Okay, so it was really The Exorcist that sort of cemented that. All right.
Thanks, Exorcist.
Thanks, Exorcist. Okay, have you ever seen the movie Ouija?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, so the movie Ouija, when Debbie suddenly dies after burning a Ouija board, her friends geniusly decide to communicate with Debbie with the same Ouija board. No, no, dummies, no. That Ouija board is cursed. Get it out of there.
That's how I grew up. I grew up with the idea that if you ever use a Ouija board, when you're done with it, you have to burn it. And
Mm,
that's that
we'll
was that was what I grew up with. So
Yeah, we'll talk. Wait a minute. So every time you use it, so you have to buy a new Ouija board, or when you're just
that's exactly what I said. And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not doing that. I'm just burning money."
that's just wasteful, wasteful.
So wasteful.
All right. So as you can imagine, all things with Debbie's friends, it just goes downhill from there. But when it was released, the movie boosted board sales, and it spurred petitions by my favorite group, the Evangelicals,
Of course.
because they wanted to ban the Ouija. You
Yes.
know, of course. Okay, evangelicals, just shut the fuck up about everything. All right, the next, there was a what's it called when you have a second movie?
Oh, the sequel?
Yes, I'm like I have brain farts today. The sequel is Ouija 2: Origin of Evil,
Oh my
and
god.
honestly, the synopsis is just that dumb people never learn. So that's
Sure.
all
Sure.
we're gonna go into there, right? Another movie that should have taught you not to jack with these things is Paranormal Activity.
Oh.
When this dude tries to confront the spirit in his house using a Ouija board. So, what does the board do? The board is like, screw you, I'm going to set myself on fire. Board, it's like, okay, dude, abort, and move out.
Yeah.
There's your lesson. Next, we have The Conjuring 2. Now, I love all of his
Me
Conjuring movies.
too. Me too.
They're awesome. I love Ed and Lorraine Warren. But The Conjuring 2 is about two young girls in England who use a Ouija board and then soon start to experience, demonic activity.
Mhm.
And honestly, that movie is like the epitome of the lesson of that movie is fuck around and find out.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? It doesn't end well for them, although I don't think they die. Do they die? I think they live, right, in the movie? I'm pretty sure they do.
The girls?
Yeah,
I think they live.
I think so too. All right. Another movie is I Am Zozo. It's where a bunch of friends celebrate Halloween by using a Ouija board and connecting to a spirit called Zozo. Uh, And honestly, all I'm saying is that the absolute worst possible way to celebrate any holiday would be to summon a demon. That to me is not at all celebratory. Just like what? There's better things to do. Again, dumb people doing dumb things. And then the last one is Witchboard, which was an 80s movie.
Mm.
Okay, I am saying even straight girls had a crush on Tawny Katane. And poor Tawny Katane, she died recently.
Oh,
It's a bummer.
I don't think I know who that is.
Tawny Katane was the redhead on the car in the David in the Whitesnake video. I think it's the "Here I Go Again on My Own." Anyway, she was a bombshell, and like I said, even us straight girls had crush on her back in the '80s. But okay, but Tawny was dumb. She was dumb in the movie, and she ignored the most obviously rational rule to never play with a Ouija board alone. But she just keeps on talking to this shady dude that comes through named David, and then he ends up taking control of her and she dies.
Oh,
So it, there are a number of movies out there
spoilers.
that, yes, that can. Sorry, guys, if you haven't seen them, if haven't seen the movie. So there are a number of movies out there that contributed to sort of this evil persona of the Ouija board. But more importantly, there are a number of movies out there that should be teaching you don't screw with these things.
Mm, right. Yeah.
Not disrespectfully or recreationally. Okay, so do you have a Ouija story?
No, I wanted to ask you, did you get into the history of why it's called the Ouija?
Well, yes, but it didn't really make sense. So, all right. Basically, Elijah Bond's sister,
Uh-huh.
who was the medium, she claimed to be the medium. She was actually quite successful because she actually convinced the patent board that she was legit and that the board was legit because that's how he got the patent for it.
Okay.
I don't know if they put her through a series of tests, but during this whole process, she claimed that the board spiritually told her or spelled out, Ouija, and that it meant something
Oh.
like good luck.
Oh. Huh.
Right.
Interesting. It named itself.
It named itself. Now that's the story, but there are other reports that she actually had a necklace with the words Ouija on it. So that's where she got it. I mean, there were so many conflicting reports about how this board was named that I just kind of skipped over it. But I'm glad you asked because it is an interesting story. It's just
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't
And
know
it's
what
not
the real story
spelled
is.
like it's said. It's another one of those weird words where,
Right. It's right. I keep wanting to say Ouija, but
Yeah. Why is there an A there?
oh no, why not an E?
Fucking
Ouija.
English.
Stupid ghosts that don't know how to spell.
But no, I do not have my own Ouija story because I've never used one. The closest we ever did was we used to go to the library when we were in middle school and we used to play that what is it? Light as a feather, stiff as a board from that movie, the
Did you
craft.
really?
Yes.
Did you ever get anybody to
To
float?
levitate,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, you did, didn't you? I've heard of people doing it. I have heard of people getting people to float and they're just like, "No, I believe it though."
Yeah. So, but no Ouija story. What about you?
Yeah, so I remember asking my mom about it when I was younger. I was like 15, 16 years old. And I remember asking my mom, like, have you ever played with one? And she's like, don't mess with those things. And I'm like, okay, why? And she's like, because she said when she was younger, she and her friends were playing with the board. And
Hmm.
then, of course, they asked it a question that scared them. And they all freaked out. There's like three or four of them. They all freaked out and threw this board into the fireplace. Well, apparently the board flew back out at them,
Uh-huh.
and then they all screamed and ran for my grandma. And my grandma was like your mom, right? No nonsense. Like who, and she was, fully she was from Mexico. So, and I remember because I never met her, but I've heard my uncles have talked about her.
Uh-huh.
Very no nonsense. Didn't take any screwing around, but she was a badass like medium, and so she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
She got that board and she got rid of it.
Uh-huh.
So it was never an issue again. But my mom basically said, yeah, don't fuck with it. Your grandma had to get rid of one. It flew back out. So
Oh.
I believe my mom because I don't believe that she was making that shit up,
Uh-huh.
but also I don't believe that she wouldn't make it up, right? To try to scare me. So
Right.
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So. So that's my Ouija story. And I've always just felt weird around them. So, you know, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there was too much, like, warning about it from when I was little that I just never no, I've never touched one. I remember seeing one, though, at Toys R Us and being like, "What? This
Hmm.
is where you buy them? You buy them at Toys R Us?" And I was
Hmm.
so like, "What?" Like,
Yeah.
I thought it would be at, like, some occult shop or something, like, you know?
Right. Like it's a board game. Now, it, I know like mediums and witches and shop owners and all of that actually love the Ouija. They love the symbolism of
Mhm.
it. They love the actual boards. They collect boards. And really the whole point of this is to sort of take away some of the fear surrounding them, but also developing a healthy respect for them as a divination tool, and then also looking at sort of the fun of them, like these stupid horror movies that where we should have learned our lesson, but we didn't. Um, so again, if you use one and you successfully use it and it's in your practices, I honestly have a high level of respect for you, because I do think it's cool. It's just one of those things that I am just like, yeah, I'm just not going to mess with it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. All right. So, how do you get rid of the board if you have one and then you're like, I don't want this? All right. So, one of the strangest things that I've come across about the Ouija is that people they don't know how to get rid of them. So, they tend to hang around, and then they just pass them down through their families.
Mhm.
So, there are a lot of really cool antique boards out there. But okay, so apparently you're not supposed to burn a Ouija board.
Oh?
And yeah, like right. So, but I didn't know this. Um, because it can lead to quote unquote disastrous consequences by releasing any negative energy that has been contained, quote again, quote unquote, within the board. Um, yeah, I'm
Uh,
seriously suspect of that.
yeah, I don't see how that
Mhm.
works.
It's not a fucking hotel, a hotel room.
It's not
Eh,
Pandora's box. Like,
no, it's a you know. All right. So the suggested method of disposal is to cut the board into pieces, bless it with holy water, and then bury it.
mm,
Ah, that's just a lot of trouble. Why can't you just give it to Goodwill, put it in a yard sale, or offer it to a friend? Like, I'm not kidding. Like, pass it along. That's how we pass along tarot decks.
right.
Why not the Ouija board? And how many times have you been to Goodwill? Because I love going to Goodwill. And then there's a Ouija board. I've seen them several
Have
times.
you? I've never, and I've gone to a lot. I've just never seen one. But I've also never looked for one. And I don't generally,
Sure.
I learned very early on in my childhood to never buy board games at the thrift store because they were always missing pieces.
It's true.
It's true.
And this one in particular could be harboring this soul of a demon.
Yeah, so probably not gonna do that, sorry, but yeah, I
So,
can't tell you how many times I bought a board game at the thrift store and then, like, an important piece was missing or there weren't enough cards for the game or something. Don't donate your fucking pieced board games to the Goodwill, just throw them out. Don't put children through that heartache. That's my PSA for today.
there is a Facebook group called Throw Your Own Shit Out. Okay? Throw your own shit out. Don't leave it to other people.
Ugh,
Well, okay, so I think burning and or cutting and burying it is a bit much. So, I mean, we don't bury or burn or cut our other divination tools. So,
yeah,
why is it necessary for a Ouija board? Yeah, I just say just donate it or give it away. You'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
yeah.
Just get it out of your
You
house.
can probably, like, turn it into, like, put it in a frame or, like, a shadow
Hmm.
box and, like, make it something
Hmm.
cool and then donate it, and then somebody will
Ooh.
take it.
Or sell it, right? You
Yeah.
could be like, I make Ouija board art. I mean,
That's pretty cool.
there's so many cool things that you could do with it. Because aesthetically they are very cool.
They're cool looking.
Yeah. So when I first learned how to use a pendulum, I learned from someone who taught me how to take just an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and then in one corner you write yes, the other corner you write no. You put maybe in the middle, and then there's other things that you would put like little, ask again or whatever,
Mm,
right? So it's technically the same thing as a Ouija board, a spirit board. So
mm.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't, I haven't used those types of divination yes or no answers or whatever, but
Yeah.
not an actual
I
board.
think we all did. I mean, remember like those the papers you
Yes.
fold into like four
Yep.
times and you make the little thing and then you're like,
Mhm.
okay, ask your
Yeah.
question, pick a number, and then you open it and it says yes.
I wish you guys could see our fingers because we're doing that motion, that
Open
open,
close.
close.
There's a meme
Yes.
that said if you played this game in your childhood, you're probably a tarot reader now.
That's true. You have to find that and like share it. I love that. It's true. I loved that game. Oh, that was really fun. Okay, so that is the peculiar history of the Ouija board.
Very interesting. All this stuff I
Yeah.
did not know.
Yeah, I know, right? It was such a fun topic to sort of dive into.
Yeah.
And now we know.
Now you know.
Uh-huh. What about you? Do you have anything for the closing vibe?
I do. I have this thing that came up in an ayahuasca ceremony where when I first went and had a session with one of my mentors, she had when I like when before I walked out, she was like, and you're supposed to be a healer, like you're gonna do this work. And I just kind of looked at her like, uh-huh, okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means, but all right, whatever. So in ceremony, uh, I asked because when we're in with when we sit with ayahuasca, you're connecting with grandmother spirit. So I asked grandmother to show me like what do I need to know about healers or being a healer or all of that. And what she showed me was that healers don't walk the path of healing for you. Like they don't do the work for you. They're just showing you the way. Healers help clear the path. They show you where you might want to step next. Healers recognize the potential in a situation, um, and the healers can see the most beneficial path. But it's up to you to walk the path, to traverse the world of healing into the highest potential of self. So it's not that healers aren't, you're not literally healing other people, but you're just a way shower. And also, though, too, the spiritual hygiene, which I actually think would probably make a pretty good episode on just talking
Yeah,
about spiritual hygiene.
for sure.
That is important for people who are in any kind of healing work to do, as far as making sure you're grounding your energy, clearing your energy on a daily basis, in between clients, and how important that is. Just again, spiritual hygiene and all that. So, I thought it was a great message.
That is a great message. And yeah, you definitely, especially if you work with, multiple clients a day, from day to day, you'll definitely want to do that, spiritual hygiene, any practices. So, yeah. So I have a question. So ayahuasca is mother. Who is father?
Grandmother. Grandfather is grandfather mushroom or grandfather San Pedro. That's connecting to the divine masculine energy.
Okay, so there's grandmother and grandfather.
Yes.
Are there mother and father? Do you
Mother
know?
is technically the earth.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. And so grandmother is Aya,
Hmm.
grandfather are mushrooms.
Hmm.
And are there any other family members?
Um, it just depends on where the energy is taking you to, but that's why the mushrooms and the grandfather San Pedro, which is a cactus, those are
Ah.
both belong to the masculine energy.
s- Oh, so it's about the
Hmm.
energy.
Yeah, it's the energy that you're tapping into when you're utilizing the medicines. Mhm.
I love that. That
Yeah,
is so cool. I
yeah.
love that.
And grandmother
Yay.
is obviously, yeah, divine feminine, but also divine knowledge. too. So you
Yeah.
can ask a lot of questions.
Are there other are there other sort of medicines that contain feminine and masculine energy other than just those 3?
I think so. I believe. Oh, I know Bufo with the frog, the toad, not the frog, the toad poison that people smoke. I think I've
Oh.
never done it myself, but I know that it's DMT. So, and DMT is also the same active ingredient in ayahuasca. So I don't know
Mhm.
if those are the same, but I know or as far as connecting to the energies exactly. I don't know
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much about I don't know too much about the animal medicines.
Yeah. Or just more or less the plant. So
Yeah.
is DMT, isn't there a therapy called DMT?
Um, I don't know. I don't know if that's. I know psilocybin, which is mushrooms, is that's utilized in therapy. It's
Yeah.
you might be thinking of ketamine.
Mm. There's some therapy that's like 3 letters that people are always saying are maybe it's DMR or EMR or something like that.
Oh,
That
yeah, I think it's EMD.
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 Okay,
Yeah,
that's
no,
what that
that's
is.
that's
Okay.
different. That's different. Yeah,
All
no.
right.
But as
Okay.
far as like in medical use, there are people who are doing doctors that are administering ketamine assisted therapy and psilocybin assisted therapy. Like those are new frontiers. Well, more the psilocybin is newer. Ketamine's kind
Yeah.
of been around a little bit longer. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
This sounds familiar. So we talked about this in several actually couple past episodes, like one of our first ones on plant medicines or
Uh-huh.
um yeah, and then recently with Maria Sabina,
Mhm.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
good to know. So it's yeah, fascinating topic. Plant medicines, very cool.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. You can find us on all the socials under Esoterics Podcast, and be sure to join our Facebook community, the Esoterics group. You'll hear firsthand about all of our services, our events, and courses. You'll get intuitive development tips, card pulls, free meditations when I'm not having Mercury retrograde issues, and all sorts of other things. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. It would mean the world to us.
Yeah, and it's as easy as sharing a screenshot on your Insta stories, and just don't forget to tag us because we'd love to then reshare anything you tag us in.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for sharing space with us today. Stay mystical, magical, and ready to do it again next week when we will be talking about Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead.
I'm so glad I left that for you because I was like, I'm gonna slaughter it. But it sounds so beautiful. Say it again.
Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, it just sounds cool. Okay, you guys, seriously, we're gonna talk about the Day of the Dead. Fiora is going to school us on all things about that. So I'm really excited about that episode.
Yes.
What if I show up in my sugar
Let's
face?
do it.
Is that
Let's do
I'm
it.
gonna do
Let's
it.
do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Just make sure Hollis doesn't yell at you.
I know. Try to eat it because I might try to just make it out of sugar. All right,
All right, guys.
guys. So much fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.